Here is your latest African news. Nigeria, home sweet home. Museum to be built for returned Benin bronzes. Abi Tijani, the Director General of the National Commission for Museums and Monuments, has said that the German, Nigerian and British governments have agreed to build a museum in Edo State to house all the returned Benin bronzes. The Benin bronzes are a group of more than 1,000 metal plaques and sculptures that decorated the royal palace of the Kingdom of Benin. Most of them, unfortunately, were looted by British forces during the Benin expedition of 1897. Most European former colonial powers have begun a process in recent years of considering the return of these looted artifacts to the former colonies, especially in beautiful Africa. Africa-wide, Africa Tech Hub aims to fill COVID-19 vaccine gap. Africa could start using locally manufactured COVID-19 vaccines next year after the World Health Organization announced plans for the first mRNA technology transfer hub in South Africa. Messenger RNA or mRNA is an advanced technology that forms the basis of the Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines. It works by teaching the cells in our body how to make a protein that triggers an immune response inside our bodies. The World Health Organization says the transfer hub will allow mRNA technology to be established at an industrial scale with training and the necessary licenses provided to local manufacturers. The first tech transfer hub is to be led by a South African consortium comprising BioVac, Afrigen, Biologics, and Vaccines, and a network of universities and the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Ethiopia TPLF calls for ceasefire to be ignored in Ethiopia. Govt Reda has said the Tigray People's Liberation Front would stop at nothing to liberate every square inch of the Tigray region of 6 million people nearly 8 months after fighting erupted between the Tigray forces and Ethiopian soldiers backed by Eritrea. Speaking by phone from an undisclosed location, Reda rejected the unilateral ceasefire Ethiopia's government declared on Monday as a sick joke and said the front's response was to treat the ceasefire with a contempt it so richly deserved. Ethiopia declared the unilateral ceasefire as its soldiers and hand-picked regional interim administration fled the Tigray capital following some of the fiercest fighting of the war yet. Malawi's female MPs dress up as schoolgirls. Malawians have been sharing photos on social media of female MPs dressed up as schoolgirls, some delighting in their outfits while others are quite unimpressed by the stunt. The country's 193-member parliament usually has a strict dress code, but it was relaxed on Tuesday for the chamber's 43 female politicians. MP Gotani Hara said the gesture was meant to send a strong message to girls from successful career women that, with hard work, everything is possible. Studies show that up to 15% of Malawian girls drop out of school before finishing their primary school education. This is put down to a range of different factors, including poverty, early childhood pregnancy, or being forced into marriage. Some people found humor in how the politicians were dressed. One individual even carried fried maize in a plastic bottle, typical of snacks that children, particularly in rural areas, take to school. But others on the other side were critical, saying that more action should be taken to help girls actually stay in school. Sudan, protesters call for government resignation over IMF-backed reforms. Hundreds of people took to the streets yesterday in several cities in Sudan to demand the resignation of the government. Behind this angst are the austerity measures put in place as part of reforms supported by the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. These particular demonstrations come less than just 24 hours after the IMF announced the release of massive economic aid for Sudan, with a debt relief of $50 billion, representing nearly 90% of the total debt of the country. Uganda. Ugandans start paying new internet tax. Ugandan internet users will start from today paying a 12% excise duty on mobile data. The levy replaces the infamous social media tax, an over-the-top services daily tax introduced in 2019 on the use of social media. The new excise duty comes into effect as the new financial year begins. It was introduced earlier this year through an amendment by Parliament. It will not, however, be charged on mobile data purchased for the provision of medical and educational services. But it's not quite clear how the distinction will be made between those two. The social media tax triggered protests in July of 2018 that were led by opposition politician Robert Kyagulanyi, better known as Bobby Wine, which were violently dispersed by the security forces. Taxing of internet users continues to cause a public outcry in Uganda, especially among young people who are increasingly using the internet to start their small businesses. Angola. Angola's debts to Western oil companies reach $1 billion, says a report. Angola has accumulated around $1 billion in debt to Western oil companies operating its oil fields, with the bill prompting the African country's recently launched sale of stakes in its flagship offshore blocks, 3 industry sources. The magnitude of the debt built up over several years is a sign of the deepening financial woes at state oil giant Sonangol, one of Africa's largest companies, due to underinvestment in declining offshore fields that worsened during the COVID-19 pandemic. It comes as global companies now rethink their presence in high-cost ventures worldwide in order to meet their climate targets more quickly. And it could make Angola, with its aging and complex offshore fields, a less attractive prospect for investment. Let's see how that one goes. Thank you so much for watching. Visit our YouTube channel, Tuna Cheki, to watch our weekly news reports, and our website at tunacheki.tv for all the latest news updates. You can directly support this news series by becoming our YouTube member or even becoming a patron. And remember that Africa is watching. And please feel free to leave your suggestions, news tips, or topics about Africa that you'd like us to explore.